We'll have the updates going on, our present program, of course, and our sharing. And we're going to do a little, it says devotional here, she says. Introductions. Now this is what I need help on. Okay.
Dismissed from drama school with a note that read, "Wasting her time, she's too shy to put her best foot forward." Turned down by the Decca recording company who said, "We don't like their sound and guitar music is on the way out." A failed soldier, farmer, and real estate agent. At 38 years old, he went to work for his father as a handyman. Cut from the high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. A teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. His fiancée died, he failed in business twice, he had a nervous breakdown, and he was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never lived.
Okay, back here.
With TCSG, cost is not an obstacle. Take the Hope Career Grant. It covers 100% of tuition.
Okay. And then Carol wanted me to give a little information about post-polio syndrome and exercise. And it's a statement about exercise for survivors of polio. Advising all polio survivors not to exercise is as irresponsible as advising all polio survivors to exercise. So we'll go on to the next thing. And this is Warm Springs, and we're going to be doing that trip September 2nd at 11 o'clock at Roosevelt Hall. And we haven't got all the... Huh? September 8th.
You said the 2nd.
Oh, 2nd. It was, meets at 11 o'clock at Roosevelt Hall, and all the particulars on it yet are not worked out, but it's in the process. And here's some pictures of the Warm Springs trip in October 1st, 2005. And you'll see all the various people that have come and what a nice, celebration they had. And let's see what she's got here now. That's it. And we're going to have a board of elections, 2 terms ending 2017. And she says there's 1 third term ending in 2016. And there were 2 resignations. And we're going to be moving from 10 to 7. And she said that actually we don't need an additional 2, but we could function with 7, but she'd like to have us with 10. And the slate's going to be announced October 6th. We're going to have voting November 3rd, and the installation is our January board meeting. And we're going to have a presentation to the annual business general meeting February 2nd. And then we have the best of post-polio syndrome and something brand new. And we want to remind you all that September 15th is going to be live on the web. And it's going to be period, PAPOLIO network.org, and you'll get the program live, which I think is kind of neat. So if you'll all log in at that time, we'd like to have that. Have you joined that? Let's see. And we have a little bit about our Good Samaritan, and it's Belinda Whitaker, and she has us logging into a CBS News network. Let's hope it works. The sound. Yeah, the sound and maybe go on.
Can world-renowned artist Red Humble use the Chase mobile app to pay practically anyone at any bank? Yes, but this isn't just for anyone. Chase, make more of what's yours.
We end here tonight with the kindness of strangers and the power of kindness to turn strangers into friends. Here's Michelle Miller.
I started praying and asked God to please send somebody safe to help me.
After finding 67-year-old Belinda Whitaker stranded in her broken-down wheelchair on his way to the gym, Belial Quintine simply started pushing.
What told you she needs my help?
You're the first person that ever asked me that. I guess just intuition. I just asked her, "Do you need any help?" And she needed it, and I just jumped right to it.
It wasn't the workout the 24-year-old boxer expected. He was frustrated by motorists and pedestrians just passing by.
I don't care what you're going through. When God called you for help, you're supposed to help, period.
Well, you're thinking to yourself, man, his mother raised him right.
That's for sure. He acted like he was one of my sons or something.
Bearing the Georgia heat, Quintine delivered Whitaker home 30 minutes later, but both forgot to exchange numbers.
I think maybe I was in shock or something, or disbelief, but I didn't get his name or anything.
Over a month went by until another chance encounter.
I ran into the young man that was videotaping everything, and the first thing I said is, "What's his name?" and give me his phone number.
She called, and they reunited days later. Then, the following Sunday, she took him to church, where he was honored.
So I stay in touch with her, and I make sure she's okay. You can't do wrong doing good, and that's what it's about.
Whitaker's wheelchair is now repaired, and Below started a GoFundMe page to help replace her handicap-accessible van, recently lost in an accident.
Okay.
Now, the random stranger who had Whitaker's back has taken a seat by her side. Michelle Miller, CBS News, New York.
Can world-renowned artist Red Humble use the Chase mobile app to pay?
Okay. And if Belinda, would you like to share a little bit about your experience now that you've been on television?
Hello, everyone. Here I am. It was truly an experience. You never know what you're going to do until you're in that position. And what had happened is that I had my battery replaced on the chair, but I think there's a loose connection. And of course, I just needed to go to all these grocery store that evening, and I get started. And when I turned, the chair lost power just like that, but I kept going. And so I slid out on the ground. I'm thinking, oh, not good, not good. And I could scramble back in my chair. Somebody helped me back up so I could get in. But when I turned it on, it wouldn't go. And nobody said anything else. They just said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, but I turned it on, I couldn't go." And everybody else had scrambled away. And people were on their way to the Braves game, and nobody stopped to offer any help. And when Belial came, it had been like 45 minutes out there in the heat, like 90-degree heat. And he just asked me, he said, is everything all right? Do you need something? I said, "I got to get home." And he says, "Where is that?" I said, "Down to the end of the block." He says, "Okay, I'll push you." Just like that. Now, let's see what we can do. It's just like, "I'll push you." And he just kept going and going and going. And I really thought maybe the little guy that was videotaping, he'd say, "Hey, man, let me help you for a minute." And he didn't. He just kept videotaping. I thought, yeah, this is going to get to be a joke. Look what my friend had just kept on going. And I just really never did get his name until like 4 or 5 weeks later. So it was something, I don't know what we would do if something like that happened to us. I know one of our members that was one of the she said that she had been outside to take her service dog Penny out for her nightly duties, and her chair, one of her wheels on her chair went off the side of the sidewalk, and she's like, okay, now I'm out here in the backyard, what am I going to do? And she couldn't get back, and so she ended up calling 911, and all they had to do was put it back on the sidewalk so she could get back in. But other than that, I don't know, it's something strange. We should probably all be open, just like be aware of your surroundings and keep yourself safe, because all the time people are not safe nowadays, and they're not really concerned about who you are. I saw a newscast, and this lady's going through the Walmart parking lot, and the Walmart buggy had her purse in the cart, and somebody stopped their car, grabbed her purse, and took off. So we're not safe people nowadays, but we need to be on guard for those things. But I'm so glad he was there, and now he calls me grandma. So, thank you.
Anyway, we thank you. Yeah, that was nice, and I'm grateful for Carol to be able to give us the CBS transfer. It makes it more personal. So we also had one of our members go to Europe, and we have a couple pictures, or actually there's 4, of their European vacation, and she's on a wheelchair, and you can see them here. And then here's some more that she sent, and of course the beautiful view of her in the wheelchair with her husband. And then I guess this is a church where they were, so that was nice.
That's her wheelchair that weighs 17 pounds.
Yeah. She gave a lecture, or a little story about her wheelchair and how light it was and how to travel when you're handicapped. And then, of course, we'd like to thank Joe for his 9+ years of service as the APPA editor.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. We appreciate all his work and his ideas and how he coaches us and is available for us. Let's see, I have one more thing. I was looking for Georgia Kids. Let's see what we can. Yep. Oh, here it is. And here we have, Carol wanted me to share with you all that November 27th, we're going to be participating in the Georgia Gives program, which is part of our fundraising. And look for more information in your email or your mail, and then she has the site where you check. And it's a good way of fundraising, and it's relatively, easy thing to do, and people can just click in and give. So if you have friends or neighbors, it would be nice to tell them about this, and a good way for doing fundraising. Okay. Here it is. Okay, and now we'll present our program. And I'd like to give you a little background on him. He's got a real extensive background, and it's a pleasure to have such a person to speak to us. His name is Bob Fraumann, and he was a retired minister of music. He was at the Mount Zion United Methodist Church in East Cobb. He's published a book about his wife's life and how she lived with God after her recovery from polio at the age of 12. He tells the unique story of his wife's life in his book, God's Blessed Angel. And some of his accomplishments are his wife Jan, God's Blessed Angel. And let's see. The book begins when Jan from Columbus, Georgia was 12 years old and contracted polio when no cure was available. Her left side was paralyzed, and the doctors were considered putting her in an iron lung. And then Jan heard the doctors telling her parents this in the hallway while she was in isolation at nighttime. They said, she would never be normal and be able to walk or have children. And she prayed to God to heal her, and she said she would give her life to him if he would do so. And she was completely healed. So anyway, I'll give you Bob now and for the wonderful presentation, and then he will play some music for us.
Thank you, Rita. So nice to be here, and I'm so glad that my good friend from church, Claude Picklesheimer, was able to come with me today, and I appreciate that very much. Where's Vicky? Y'all know Vicky. She knows one of my former piano students that is now living in Noonan, that I started on piano and then transferred to Oregon years ago. Now I was a music publisher, and that's down in Christian City where I met Vicky, and it was through Vicky that I met Rita, and here we are. So thank you all for sitting over on this side where the piano is, because that'll help me as I go back and forth with you guys. Well, this has a special place for me in that my wife in her latter years, she passed away 5 years ago with cancer, but she had to have a leg amputated along with a hip and pelvis. And we came here to get in her power wheelchair. They had to make a special seat in it. So we were here about eight or 9 years ago whenever we got that chair for my wife. So now I've been retired after 60 years of church music, working with children and young people and adults in all kinds of church situations, choirs, orchestras, things of that sort. And the church I just left, I served 3 churches in Atlanta: East Point First Methodist, Sandy Springs First Methodist, and those were 9 years each. And then I was in Marietta at Mount Zion Methodist for 33 years, where I met Claude. And I'm still a member there, but I retired there when I was 79. I'll be turning 82 next week. So I figured it was time for me to retire. But I had to have something to do. I just couldn't retire to nothing. And so I did write a biography of my wife, which I'll tell you about. And I did produce a CD, which everything I play today for you on the piano is on that CD. So that's where we'll go from here on out, okay? I was invited by our Senator, Johnny Isakson, a few years ago to go to the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. and play for them. And so I did. There were about 4,000 people there from all over the world, 119 foreign countries, and I was trying to figure out what in the world can I play for these kind of people. It was the president, his cabinet, and Tim Tebow, and a lot of folks like that were there. So the first 2 numbers on my CD are what I'm going to play for you now. And I've taken classical music and blended it with Christian music. So it'll be Beethoven's Fifth, blended with How Great Thou Art. And then I go into the Warsaw Concerto and play To God Be the Glory. Thank you. Now, there's a little change of pace here, and I'm going to play the, what is it? What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And I'm going to overlap that with Sweet Hour of Prayer and Claire de Lune. Little Western style to What a Friend We Have in Jesus. Making this CD, I found out that my favorite composer was Beethoven. So I'm going to play Moonlight Sonata. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. But I'm going to put a jazzy arrangement with that with Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Beethoven would probably turn over in his grave to know that something like that had happened to one of his numbers, but here it goes. very favorite of mine. That's his E flat major number. And also I'm going to put it down with that, his eyes on the sparrow. Thank you. Those numbers are on this CD that's over on the table. There's 10 selections like that, and much more than what I've already played for you today. Well, nice to see your smiling faces. Good to be alive today. Am I on? Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right. Well, I did write a book. This is it, God's Blessed Angel. I lived with Jan Brown Fraumann 56 years. We had a wonderful marriage, and she passed away 5 years ago this month. So I was trying to figure out, she had such a unique life. And you're going to hear about that just in a few minutes from me now. That I thought, if I don't memorialize this somehow, her message isn't going to get out to other people. And so I decided to do it for my family and my friends, and I published this book 3 years ago. And I want to share with you some things that are in the book. As Rita introduced me today, she talked about Jan having polio. And here's the situation that she had. She was 12 years old. She fell out of bed. Whole left side paralyzed. Early 50s. Yes, they did put her in a hospital in quarantine in Columbus, Georgia. And she overheard the doctors at nighttime, while she was in quarantine, tell her parents, your daughter's never going to be normal. They didn't know that she overheard that conversation. She'll never have children. She'll never be able to walk right. We're thinking of putting her in an iron lung. And they left. Can you imagine that? 12-year-old girl. And they left. And that's the night that she had an encounter with the Lord. And she prayed. And I have it on promised God if he would heal me from polio, I would serve him all my life. He did. And I did. Here's my story for 62 years. I didn't know there was such a thing as post-polio syndrome. How many of you are involved with that? Several of you are. All right. I didn't know that. Jen never had that. So I learned that later, and then after meeting Rita through Vicki, I learned a little bit more about what that is like. And the story I tell on her now is how God healed her. And he did heal her without a vaccine. So it had to be a God thing. But she prayed that prayer I told you about. And with the help of her mother, with all kinds of hot and cold compresses and whatever was involved that she had to do, it took 8 months for all those muscles to come back. They couldn't put her in public school during that time. So they put her in a private school, listen to this, where they progress you as fast as you learn. And she took 10th, 11th, and 12th grades in 1 year. Graduated from high school when she was 15. Went to college. The college she went to is the same one I went to, which was in Lexington area, Lexington, Kentucky, Asbury College. I'm from Pittsburgh. She's from Columbus, Georgia. All right? We met in college. Jan now is 2 years younger than all the freshmen in the class. Got that? She made a deal with God that he would heal her. And he did. That's the fortunate part, and that doesn't happen very often, but it did with her. And she also wrote a list of, she got on the dating scene pretty fast. And she also wrote a list of 30 qualifications that she wanted in the man she was going to marry. And she put it in her Bible. And she would come in from dates and check them off. Now, follow this now. She's 16 doing that. I met her when she was 16, got in that dating cycle with her, along with a bunch of other guys. At 17, I proposed to her, and I was number 4. I married her when she was 18. Now, I didn't pass all 30 of those qualifications. They're in the book here on page 50, by the way. But I did better than the other 3 guys. I married her when she was 18. We were at the end of our junior year in college. We finished college off together, our senior year married. Then I went off to Princeton, Westminster Choir College, and did my graduate work. And when Jan was 19, she was teaching 5th grade public school, putting me through grad school. Now, what I just told you were her teen years, from 12 to 13 up to 19. That's everything that happened in that period of time. And on page 50, I have in the book here those 30 qualifications. I didn't know that they existed back then. I don't know if I would have dated her. But I put them in the book here because what I'm going to share with you now is Jan and I put God first in everything that we did, working on our legacy, not knowing that we were really doing it back then. We just wanted to put God first in our life. And I only had 2 qualifications. I was raised by a Christian mother and father, and I wanted my wife to be a Christian. But number 2, I believed that God had somebody for me, if I would stay in his will, that I would marry. And these are the exact words of my prayer. Dear God, please, don't let her be ugly. I did not want to wake up on a honeymoon and think, oh my gosh, what did I marry? Well, God answered that prayer as well. And on page 50, I listed these 30 qualifications because, folks, as I look around here, we're all of the older generation. dating was a lot of fun back in those days. It was a whole different season. It was a whole different way of dating than what it is today. You have children or grandchildren, or in my case, 5 great-grandchildren. When they told my wife she'd never have children, she had 2 boys, 4 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. Boy, that's what an answer to prayer that is right there. But I put it in the book because you have children and grandchildren who are the dating age, and they need some help. It's not a very nice scene out there. Am I right? You see what they're going through, and in many cases, the parents and the grandparents just kind of step back and hope it's going to be okay. They need your help to sit down and write a list. Use the list that's on page 50 and make that a guideline for your kids so that when they get out there and start dating, they have something to base it on. I think that's so important. I believe that the 3 most important decisions you're going to make in life are, number 1, putting God first. Number 2, who you marry, if you marry. And number 3, what your career is going to be. Would you agree with me that those 3 things probably direct your whole life? They do, yeah. And fortunately, I have a story to tell that very few people can tell, because very few people put God first way back in the early days of their life. Jan and I both prayed before we even met each other that God would lead us to who He wanted us to marry. We prayed on dates. You can't get in any trouble when you pray on dates. We prayed for our children before they were born. Jan prayed for who our 2 boys were going to marry before the boys were even born. And my daughters-in-law know that today. That they were prayed for way back then. That's what I call God, putting God first in everything. We did it. Thank God. We did it without realizing that we were working on a legacy. And I know many of y'all cannot relate to that. But you can help your kids relate to that. It's so important. God's not going to let you down. I heard a guy one time that saw a lady with her wedding ring on her index finger. Man, is that your wedding ring? She said, yes. He said, it's on the wrong finger. She said, married the wrong guy. Now maybe some of you sitting here say, yep, that's me. But it's, the important thing is we can start, any one of us can start today and work on our legacy. 2 things we have no control over: when you're born and when you die. But what's in between all that? Long dash or a short dash, right? And we can work on that dash. We certainly can work on that dash with our children and our grandchildren, because there's a lot that we can't go back and undo. So that's the bad news. But the good news is, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Doesn't matter what age you are. You start a legacy here that you can leave with your family. Isn't that exciting to know that? That's what's available for us if we put God first. During our college days, 2 other guys and myself got involved in a gospel team in college. And we bought a new car, and we traveled 25 states, 40,000 miles in 2.5 years, and saw 650 young people make decisions for Christ in their life. And we were teenagers. We didn't know what we were doing in many ways, but we were out there sharing our faith. And during that time, Jan and I wrote love letters, and we numbered them so to be sure that we got them in sequence. And I can remember writing every day. Jan would write every day, And those letters would be 6, 8, 10, 12 pages long. What can you say every day in 6 to 12 pages of that? Well, it got a little mushy there sometimes, you know. And I have some of those letters in this book. And I put them in here to show that how God was working with his thread in our lives, even back when we were dating, back when we were engaged, all the way up to the point that we were married and continued. I'm trying to show people who read the book how important it is. If you put God first, he will not let you down. We can depend on that. And my story is a perfect example of that. And like I say, I didn't know we were working on it legacy-wise back then. But now I look back and see that we were. And I just thank God that the way he directed Jen and me during all those periods of time. Y'all know what a QR is? Y'all know what a barcode is? Well, a QR is a little square doojie here, right? And that takes you to YouTube. And you go to YouTube and pick it up, or you can take your iPhone, click on it, it'll bring it right up. There's 10 QRs in this book. And so you can actually get to meet Jan and hear her give her testimony about all that, her testimony about what I told you about her having polio and how God healed her. Are we ready with that CD? I brought a CD along because I want you to hear her. It's one thing for me to talk about her, but I want you to hear her. I was a musician, obviously. She developed into an incredible musician vocally. And she did so much work for me, singing gospel music, singing arias from the Messiah, whatever it may be. But she would sing these two songs and then give the testimony that I just gave you. And in that testimony, it talks about being healed. And then she goes into O Solo Mio with some Christian words. So this is a couple minutes long, but I just want you to get to hear about the gal that I'm telling you about and how incredible she was as a vocalist. So here's Jan singing for you. My playing for her.
My Father is omnipotent, and that you can't deny. A God of might and miracles, 'tis written in the sky. It took a miracle to put the stars in place. It took a miracle to hang the world in space. But when he saved my soul, cleansed and made me whole, it took a miracle of love
It's hard for me to sit there and not play along with her. Our theme became in our marriage, to God be the glory. That's on the book here, And when she passed away on August 12 at 6:30 at home, I called my minister, and on the way over to my home, my minister took this picture of this double rainbow and said, Bob, are you aware that there's a double rainbow over your home right now? 10 minutes after Jan passed away. And to me, that was just like, wow. God saying to me, I just welcome jail. So I put on there, To God Be the Glory. The title of my CD is To God Be the Glory. And if you go to our cemetery, it's on our tombstone, To God Be the Glory. So that's been the theme of everything that Jan and I have done in our married life. If Jan were here, she taught a lot of courses on marriage and relationships between husband and wife and kids. And one of the things she would say is, wives, in the home, you're either the thermostat or the thermometer. What are you? If you're the thermometer, attitudes are going up and down like this, day after day. If you're the thermostat, you're controlling the atmosphere of your home. What are you? And it's up to you, ladies, up to you, mothers, up to you, grandmothers, to do that. And if my boys were here, they would back me up and say, there wasn't any losing tempers, there wasn't any yelling or any slamming doors. That just did not happen in our 56 years of marriage. And when I go into my kids' homes now, it's the same way there. They picked it up and they're carrying it on. It's so important. The wife in the home, of what she does. Now, when Jan passed away, I found later a 3-ring notebook, 300 pages in it, of her having conversations with God, and she journaled those conversations. I don't know anybody that's ever done that. I didn't know she did it. But it happened at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm asleep. And one of the conversations went like this. This is God through the Holy Spirit speaking to my wife, and she's journaling it. Jan, I'm so glad you got up at 3 o'clock this morning so that you and I could spend some time together. Now, yesterday, when you and I were talking, you promised me that you would spend 2 hours today in prayer and meditation and Bible study with me. And you didn't do it. Why? And Jan came back and said, well, God, I'm so sorry, but I got busy. And Bob needed me for several things. And God comes back and says, Jan, who's more important, Bob or me? And I found 300 pages over a 16-year period that Jan had conversations with God and journaled them like that. I didn't even know about it. That was just her personal, private time with the Lord. I don't know anybody that's ever done that. I understand some folks have, but I don't know them. But when you were around my wife, this is another reason I had to write this book. When you were around her in any kind of conversation, Bible study, whatever it may be, and questions would come up, people always wanted to know, Jan, how would you respond to that? How would you handle this? And when she would talk and speak and respond, it was like people put blinders on, and they were like sponges. They would just kind of soak up what she had to say. And I sat there and saw this happening. I couldn't believe it. That you could sense God speaking through her. And I'm not trying to uplift my wife and say that she was that great a person. Yes, she was that dedicated to the Lord. But just like the moon reflects the sun, I'm trying to share with you folks, when you have your life centered in God, how he can reflect himself through you. And that's what he did with my wife. And that's how he reflected himself through her. And with such a joy and privilege to be married to somebody like this. Like I say, I know I have a very unusual story to tell. But I love to tell it because I'm a perfect example, and my wife as well, of if you put God first in everything, he's not going to disappoint you. Now, another thing that she did that was unusual, she studied the Jewish faith. Any Jewish folks here today? She studied the Jewish faith, and one of the things that they do even today is they have blessings for all kinds of situations. And she studied that, and we were talking about it. Why don't we, of the Christian faith, those of us who are, why haven't we picked that up? Because that is our heritage. And we haven't. And so she started to put together some studies about that. And she wrote 17 blessings that are in this book, and they're available in 5x7 or 8x10 in color, that could be even gifts or just suggestions. For instance, a blessing for your husband, a blessing for your wife, your children, your grandchildren, your job, your home, your country. Just on and on, 17 like that are included here. And I had to put them in this biography because it was such an unusual thing, especially coming from the background that Jan gleaned all this from. And she was so engrossed in with that. But see, in her last years, she contracted cancer. And the cancer was in her good leg, not her polio leg, left side. Cancer was on the right side. And it was just a very small bump in her thigh. And when we had it examined, it was like a pyramid in her thigh. And they said, we're going to have to go in and shrink this thing down to even save your leg way back then. And they did with radiation. And it did. It worked. It shrunk the tumor down. They went in, took it out. She was fine. But a year later, a radiation-induced cancer came in that leg. I didn't know that could happen. But the radiologist said, yeah, I hate to tell you this, Jan, but that's radiation-induced cancer. And they went in and operated on that. Got it, we thought. A year later, it came back. And my wife, for 9 more years, battled 9 surgeries of that cancer coming back. They finally had to amputate her leg and her hip and her pelvis. And that's when we came here to get a power chair that would fit her because it was such a big operation. But what's interesting is that was her good leg. Her polio leg she kept. And she was able to hobble around as best she could with one leg. Some of you know what I'm talking about that. I mean, it's really rough. But she lived with that for almost 3 years. And that's where she's telling her story in here in chapter 5. You can see her sitting there with her leg amputated and telling the story that I just told you. During that period of time, she developed a whole list of scriptures out of the Old Testament and out of the New Testament that she called healing scriptures. And she would every day read those scriptures. Just like she said, this is my medicine. Just like she would take a prescription from a doctor, this was like her prescription from the Lord to help her with the healing. And he did provide that healing for a period of time. But you know what the ultimate healing is? That's when we die and go to heaven. That's the ultimate healing. And I just so hated to see her pass on, that she was in so much pain and so much misery with that cancer at the time, that was the way I felt like God healed her. So I have all this in this book here. I have 60 pictures, testimonials from her children and her grandchildren, testimonials from people who knew her from high school and college days all the way up through her life. And again, I try to show in there how you can see the thread of God going through her whole life. That if you let God direct your life, He's not going to disappoint you. And I know some of you have not been able to say, I wasn't fortunate enough to not have polio, or now I got post-syndrome polio. But God works in different ways, and He works in mysterious ways with all of us. That whatever your situation, it thrills me when I see some of you in your wheelchairs here. Man, it's not stopping you. You're just getting up and going. And I saw that with my wife. We flew to see our kids in Texas and Ohio and different places we went when she thought life was going to be over when she had her amputation. But we were able to carry on. And it thrills me when I see how you guys are carrying on in spite of your situation, whatever it is. But isn't it good to know that God is in charge, even when we sometimes question it, don't we? You're never too, C.S. Lewis said this, you're never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. Never too old. And listen to this one from C.S. Lewis. You can't go back and change the beginning. That's gone. But the good news is, you can start where you are, listen, and change the ending. That's the exciting part. So, begin today working on your legacy the way you want it to end. Because you can't change the past, but we can change from here on out. And that's the good news. We don't know how long we're going to live. Gosh, people are living longer and longer every day. And they say that the longer you live, the longer you're going to live. So we got to take care of ourselves and do whatever it takes to do that. But just putting our lives in God's hands and knowing that He's there to take care of us. And I hope some of these thoughts that I've shared with you today maybe resonate with you, but even more so, resonate with your family. My favorite thing in doing all my church work was young people. I thrilled. I did 100 choir tours with young people all over the place. Jamaica, the United States, or maybe. And it was just a thrill just to be able to be a part of young people's lives. And I shudder today when I see the direction that our young people are going. And you can change that for your family. Isn't it worth it? Huh? And I know some grandparents that say, well, we don't want to interfere with our kids. You need to. Because nobody else out there is. And they're going, for the most part, down the wrong road. And they need some direction from people who love them and people who care. Now, I want to close off here with a couple more numbers at the piano. Is that okay?
Just had a question.
Yeah.
With your wife, did she have to have like a therapy also when she was going through her polio, when she was paralyzed?
It was primarily with her mother.
Huh.
And I know she had a lot of hot and cold compresses, and I remember her talking about that a lot. But outside of that, I don't know of it any.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I feel that the mental health of you, in addition to your physical, is part of healing. And I just...
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Well, she had a strong relationship with God. And her mother was a big encouragement with her there. And she lived like 30 miles from Warm Springs, where you guys are going. But she never went there. don't know why. But it was available back then. Yeah.
Well, we thank you so much for this inspirational story. It's really enlightening.
You're welcome. Any questions from you guys? Any input?
You might be mesmerized by what you said.
Oh. You see why I do what I do?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm retired, and I have a passion. I have to tell our story. And God blessed me with piano and organ and trumpet, actually. And we're working with all kind of ages and choirs and churches. And so I just decided to put together what I've done for you today. I have a few more numbers I can play for you, if you like.
Yeah.
Maybe we can sing a few numbers, maybe something like that. Well, we'll sing along. We can maybe work on that too. Is that it? Okay. I go back to the piano. See what I got here. Mozart wrote a sonata that was one of my favorites way back in grade school, and I picked it up here. It's Sonata in C, and I blended it together with Let There Be Peace on Earth. Remember that? The Greek Concerto, one of my favorites, and I put together with the Greek Concerto, Because He Lives. Are there any favorites that maybe I could put a little number for you together? Any favorite songs you have? Amazing Grace? Okay. Let me see what I can do with that one. Interestingly, Amazing Grace is written on the black notes of the piano. Don't know that? It's the pentatonic scale. How many people here you've never played piano? You don't know how to play, put it that way. All right, you can go home and tell your kids or your grandkids, hey, I can play Amazing Grace on the piano. Now, practice ahead of time. And the black notes on the piano are like this, 2 and 3, 2 and 3. You've seen that. Start with the bottom note of the 2. Now watch. All black notes. And that's really called the spiritual key as well, or scale, I should say, the pentatonic scale. Because you take almost all your spirituals, play them on the black notes. Now, I'm going to play them on a few white notes right now as well. But a little fun thing for you to do on the piano when you get home. Here we go. God Bless America. Got any patriotic folks here? Huh? Okay, let's do that. Here we go. From the close it off with one more number that I enjoy playing, and this is a Beethoven sonata going into Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Some of you may know that old church hymn. And Now I Belong to Jesus is the second one. And the last one, Heavenly Sunlight. Thank you. If anyone would like to talk to me about the book or the CD, I'll be over here to take it.
Well, I'd like to thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank
This
you.
was really great.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you could take time to be with us. And
My
share.
joy.
Yep. It was
I've been looking forward to today. I'm not used to venues like this. It's always a church setting.
Yeah.
And be right here where my wife fit in with you guys, and the whole story, how that was and is. I thank you guys. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to thank Vicki for suggesting our speaker. And so that was appreciated. If you have anything that you'd like to share, because this is our sharing time, we have a few minutes. if there's something that, you know, you'd like to share with us? Nothing? Anything that you've learned to help you in your life, or anything for handicapped people that we should know about? Nothing? Okay.
Just about everything he said was wonderful. Very, very lovely work.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was. Very inspirational. I'm glad you could all come, and I try to be on time, and we actually have a few minutes extra, which I guess I'm kind of efficient. But it's just, I like to provide programs that, that help you with your mental type thing for positive stuff in life. And so I feel today was a perfect example. And anybody, if you have any suggestions for any kind of programs or whatever, please let me know. We pretty much are all booked up for this year, but we'll start in January again, and then there's a lot of things that we can go into. And some of the healthcare changes, like stem cell research, and the kinds of things using for, instead of surgery, what else you could do to help your life. Yeah. So anyway, I guess if you have anything else, yeah.
I remember the sister getting hot pack treatments, and they took old woolen army blankets, and then in boiling water, and wrung them out and put them on and scalded. I was hurting more from that than I was from polio.
Yeah. My mother took care of me, and I don't know, she must have done all of that. I wouldn't know. But I was sick for a whole summer. But I did a lot of exercise. My doctor had said do somersaults and stuff, so that's what I did. And I still do exercise now. I mean, it's not like I used to be, but anyway. Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and we look forward to your participation in Warm Springs, and I think that ought to be kind of fun. Okay, thank you then.
For those of you that did not contact me about Warm Springs, about the little fortification you want to know, still.
Yeah, well, you put my name on the list, right?
Yeah, I have
Yeah. Yeah, we'll work out the details, and but it'll be coming because I have to consult with Carol and arrange all